It's Sunday night, and that means it's time for our Paramotor Nation, bringing you some of the most influential people in the sport of paramotoring in America and around the world. Tonight's show is sponsored by Fly My PPG, offering a full-service paramotor training experience. Florida Flight Sports, year-round training. You can do this. PPG Lights, countless patterns and colors on your paramotor. Lone Star Paramotor, foot launching, strength training classes, and much more. PPG Zone, your go-to place for all paramotor information. Aviator Paramotor, a cornerstone for paramotor training and paramotor equipment. Fly PPG, discovered powered paragliding, paramotor training on a field of dreams. Wisconsin Flight Sports, making it affordable and accessible for you to get your paramotor training. Charlie Soap, supplying you with all natural laundry detergents and household cleaners. One Up Adventures and ParamotorProps.com, providing all paramotor training and adventure trips. Skylab SIV, teaching pilots of all skill levels collapse recovery and advanced maneuvers. True North Paramotor, offering American-made, fully customizable frames as well as wings and accessories. Blackhawk Paramotor aims to provide the safest and most powerful paramotoring equipment. Paraswag USA, your complete powered paragliding gear source. iFly Indiana provides training on their equipment or yours for $2,500. Wicked Wings Logo provides customizable glider logos. Check out all of our sponsors with links to their websites along with past episodes and much more information at www.ourparamotornation.com. And now, it's time for this week's episode of Our Paramotor Nation. Testing. Oh, wait a minute. I think I can hear me now. So let's see. Give me a high five if you can hear me. And then let's try this. So you guys can hear me. Tell me if you can hear me in the chat. And then you should be able to hear the guests. So.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Tell me if you can hear me.
Someone say yeah. Okay, we can hear us now.
Okay. Can we hear everybody? How about my guests? It works? Can you hear Ripa? Someone
yes,
tell me you can hear Ripa.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear Ripa? Can you hear Johnny Ripa? We hear you.
Okay.
I hear you. Yes, we're good. Thank you. I don't know.
Let's start again, David.
Let's start the intro. Should we start the intro? No, we're not going to start the intro.
No intro.
All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. We're good to go. All right. So, what you missed previously on the first 30 seconds of our Paramotor Nation. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. 32 of you here so far. That's awesome. Give me a thumbs down for that intro. Maybe we'll earn the thumbs up later on, right? I got Johnny here. Let's see. Do we have both of us? Yes, we're both on screen. That's great. You saw a little flash of our guest, Eugene. He just got his clothes on. We're going to give him a second to get his pants on because you saw he had the shirt on. But we're going to talk about a couple things first before we get to him. Thank you all. All right, everybody's good. We're good. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. I don't want a whole episode of just mute. All right. We just had the Dave Purdon fly-in, John. It was awesome. We're not going to do a wheel tonight, but here's what I'm going to do. Right at the top of the show, I want to reward everybody for tuning in right at the top of the hour. 34 people are watching right now. I reached out to Amy and Dave Purdon and asked them for the total number of registered pilots that we had at the fly-in. So
what was that total, David?
John, we talked about this. What are you asking me for? I told you we're doing a giveaway.
I'm trying to play role play.
Oh, you're role playing.
Could you go along? Could you go along with it?
Sorry, you're role playing. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Everybody, take a guess. Take one guess of how many pilots that you think registered for this fly-in this year. I've got one of two gifts we'll give away. We got an awesome size large Fly PPG jersey. I love it. I was wearing mine this week. It's really comfortable. Or if you want, you can have Adventure Paramotor prop covers. So take a guess. Take a guess, and then I'll hold up a little note card here with the total number. Excuse me, too much Angry Orchard. The total number of, this is how we go. Nick Griffith says 252. Peregrino says 2. All right, so anyways, John's going to keep an eye on those numbers. But I want to talk about this fly-in for just a second because there were some real special things that came out of it for me, for everybody. I got to see a lot of our sponsors. By the way, I hope you guys like that the new intro. It's a little quicker, a little faster paced. Got to see some of the sponsors. First time I got to meet Kevin Kimball of iFly Indiana, who was the first guest 2.5 years ago on our show and a sponsor of the show. Hung out with Fly My PPG and One Up Adventures. Fly PPG, who's doing the giveaway tonight. Michael Mixer. Also got to see Midwest Parajet. That was awesome to see them there. Scott Baxter. And who else? Chris Holbert, Predator. There's so many people there. It was awesome. Some very close guesses I can see already. So if two people guess, by the way, John, if someone gets it right on the money, John knows the answer.
I'm going to get the first one, so don't worry about it.
And this is the number.
Let's not get crazy with it.
Yeah, if someone goes over and someone's under, we're going to give it to the under. That's how we're just going to do it, just to be fair. And I think there might have been two numbers that were pretty close. So, thanks, Craig Taylor. Says better without the robo voice. Thanks, buddy. I got to fly Michelle Burns. Michelle Burns was on the show a couple episodes. She was a guest. We had a great tandem flight. In fact, she was one of my favorite people I've taken up because I'd say for 40 minutes of the 45 minutes, she had the control. She was a natural. She's going to be training next year just like she promised everybody on the show. All right, just a couple more seconds. Oh, James Sutherland, also another sponsor. Hung out with him quite a bit. Correct? Charlie Soap, yep. All right, but this was the most important thing. For those of you that were at the Bad Apples flying, you might have seen a little girl there with her dad. She was in a wheelchair. One Up Adventures took her up for a flight, which was beautiful. We raised a lot of money for Resurgence PPG, supporting our adaptive veterans, getting them up in the air. Of course, that's our big philanthropy that we use, that we do as a show. But we also ended up giving that family $1,000. Well, they were given some really good news this past week, or last couple weeks. They were approved for Habitat for Humanity to get a house. Yes. But there was one stipulation. They had to get rid of $27,000 of medical bill debt, and they were getting close. The father, who was a paramotor pilot, said, I can't do this now. I can't do this anymore. He ended up giving the glider over to Kiri and Darian Fields, and them, along with Steve Stark, I tried to help out as much as I could too. We said, okay, the goal is to raise at least $2,000. We raised, and I tell this story because I'm really proud of our paramotoring community, because it is a community that came together. We had a raffle. Our show donated a couple prizes. Some other people, Mark Gelroy, from Paralife. I actually won the t-shirt in the raffle, so I told Mark I'm going to wear this tomorrow. Thanks for donating that. So they donated. Take your last guess. We're going to wrap up the guesses here. We ended up donating over $4,000, and they're going to get that house. So absolutely awesome. Absolutely
Very
awesome.
cool.
All right. We ready to give away something? What was it? I saw two numbers that were pretty close. Should I show the number first?
Yeah. I'm just going to say the ones that one was over and one was under.
I'll show you the number. Number. So we're going to take the under number. That's what I said. Because, you remember the show, was it Price is Right? Price is Right. You'd have to be in the end, you'd have to be, you can't go over. If you went over, you lost. So as per the Purdens this afternoon, this was the number that they gave me. It was 188 pilots. 188 pilots. I think they were going to cap it at 150. But I talked to Dave. He said, we know we're going to go a little bit over that. 188 pilots. Johnny, who was closest below?
I've got Jade Lear at 187,
awesome.
and J.R. Paramotor came in later at 187.
Okay, so we're going to give it to Jade then. Jade?
Yeah, Nick came in. Nick Fazakis came in at 189.
I saw 189. So Jade is our winner. Congratulations, Jade. Jade does a show on Wednesday. Jade does a show on Wednesday night on her YouTube channel called Girls Just Want to Fly. I actually bought a T-shirt for my daughter. She loved it. I sent a picture over to Jade. Jillian was super happy about that. Jade, put in the chat, John, if you keep an eye on it, whether you'd like the large Fly PPG jersey, which is awesome, or if you want the Adventure Paramotors prop covers. All right,
David.
Yeah.
Let's get to this guest.
I do want to get to the guest.
I'm really excited.
Is he dressed?
I think he's fully dressed.
Oh yeah, there he is. He's had ample cups of coffee. I know. Chief Mora, yes, you were very close. I saw Chief Mora's numbers very close first. So very good. Thank you for helping with that. Hey, here's Eugene.
Hey, man. Yeah, sorry. I thought this was a bottomless party, so, at least my chest is covered, so that's good, right?
That's good. That's good. All right. Are you ready? So, it's funny because I actually did walk around promoting the show a little bit. Unintentionally promoting the show. I was just very excited about the show, and I was asking, some people knew who Eugene was. Some people didn't know who Eugene was. So, Eugene, I thought it'd be best if we just start off the show talking about your background, not necessarily the paramotoring background, but why don't you talk about your background and how you got into paramotoring? Can you do that?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Okay. So I've been in paramotoring for about 8 years, but before that, I actually used to be a presenter on Discovery Channel since I had a huge conservation project with chimpanzees. And I got sucked into becoming a presenter on Discovery USA with Animal Planet. Did that for a few years. And so I did a lot of trips to the USA, doing interviews and being on shows and things like that. But predominantly, I think the work that I was doing was to try and save some conservation areas in Africa and rescue some animals, especially those endangered chimpanzees, bring them back to a rehabilitation center I built here in South Africa.
So I believe we have a picture of you here with one of the chimpanzees, right? And how old were you in this picture, or how many years ago was it?
Geez, I think 12 years ago or so.
Okay. All right.
Something like that.
So was this a passion of yours first? Just rescuing?
You know what? I'm a jack of all trades. I grew up in the bush, so that explains a lot about me. If I start scratching my butt here, you'll know why. It's
when you say the bush, Eugene, do people know? Do people know where you're from?
Yeah, the bush can mean a lot of different things. What does that mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well, when I say bush, I mean I'm not a city boy. I grew up in Africa, South Africa. I'm South African, and I'm not a city boy. I grew up in a game reserve, so that's where the passion comes from for wildlife. But then, as far as endangered species goes, I'm one of I'm one of those kinds of people. If I'm thrown a problem at me, if a problem is thrown at me, then at least I try and solve it. And that's where I got into chimpanzees. Met someone that told me about the problems that they had in building a sanctuary in South Africa, and because there's so many wars on the African continent. They kind of said, it's such a desperate situation and they can't get anything done. And I said, well, let me give it a crack, see if I can try and fix this problem and see if I can do something, because it sounds like a worthy cause. Eventually, I ended up building a sanctuary for chimpanzees, and the biggest one in the world, and the most famous one by far, I guess. And then, in the papers, some of the producers and television makers, they were starting to read about my crazy adventures in Africa, and I had some really ridiculous. I mean, I have a book out trying to explain about some of these stories, and it's crazy. Traveling all over Africa, trying to rescue chimps, putting them on airplanes and building cages on the fly and things like that, and bring them back over here, and then creating families. So that's where I started with the conservation work. I actually learned how to speak chimpanzee because, I had to create families, so I had to learn the language. And so,
Wait a minute. Tell me.
I do speak. I'm fluent in chimp. So
okay, wait a minute. You are okay. First of all, there was a show about a year and a half ago called Tiger King. Were you the chimpanzee king? Chimpanzee king?
I used to be. Yeah, I used to be the chimp king.
Now wait a minute.
But I didn't go to jail, so
that's good.
I'm still out.
How when you said you had the largest sanctuary, how many chimpanzees did you have?
It's only about 34 chimps that's at the sanctuary.
That's a lot. Now I want to hear
but
you.
They were all.
I got to hear you.
They were all individual rescues. They were all individual rescues. They're not bred. So the thing is, every one of those chimps was a story to some war-torn country that was in chaos, and you had an incredible adventure to try and get them out. So it represents a hell of a lot of adventures and action to try and save those lives.
All right, I want to hear about a couple of them, but I have to stop for a second.
Yeah, go.
Because a couple things. First of all, for those of you that don't know, part of the reason Eugene's here is not because of this amazing story, and what we're going to eventually get to is how and why he started paramotoring, but he is also the Nirvana importer for Africa and America. So we're going to get to that too. There's so much to unpack in this hour. We may go a little bit over. Eugene said he would stay on for a little bit afterward, or actually we'll see how he's feeling in about 45 minutes, whether he wants to stay on. So we got that. Before I ask the next thing, of course, if anybody has any questions, we'll try to get them in. I do want to say thank you to Crazy Uncle Bob. He says, "Greeting, fellow deplorable infidels, flying squirrels. Hurricane Ida ate my paramotor wing before I could even fly it." I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yikes.
That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that, brother. I hope that gets repaired quickly for you. So how would you say in chimpanzee, I hope you get your paramotoring wing fixed quickly?
I don't think chimps relate to paramotoring.
How would you say I need a beer or I want to eat something to a chimpanzee?
Well, okay. So in chimp language is a combination of gestures and vocalization. So if you get the two wrong when you present whatever you're trying to say, then you're going to get a beating from whoever you're trying to say it to.
Okay.
Most likely it'll go wrong. So when you're talking about beer or whatever else, you'll have to point and gesture towards it. But that'll be something like that, which just says it's good. In chimp language, that means it's good.
Say that again.
No.
Well, no. The reason I ask is because I talk to John.
I heard him.
I talk to John Ripa all the time, and that's usually how he answers when I answer the phone. I'm like, "John, are you okay?"
Oh, he's choking on his sandwich.
Something. I don't know, but I didn't realize he speaks chimpanzee so well.
That's great.
I'm going to ask this question, and hopefully that you'll get to that a little bit later on. The question is, and this comes from our friend Jim CR120. He says, "Has a chimp ever been in a paramotor with you?"
No way was that. I think that's it. The story does tie together. The paramotors and my chimp world connected at a certain point. There was a connection in time, which I'll explain when you get to that question, how I got into paramotoring.
Okay. Very quickly, thank you, Geriatric PPG, for the $10 donation to the show. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I like that new the new little logo he's got there, and the little picture, little red wing and flying a paramotor. Very cool. But let's get back to, tell me one of the craziest stories of you rescuing a chimp.
Wow. Okay. There's so many. All right. Well, I was this time I was in Angola. This is, ties back to aviation. I had to rescue something like, I think it was 5 or 6 chimps, right? And so I imported the crates because I'm a good boy and I do everything by the book. And so the authorities there, it's kind of like a war-torn country. So, and they got this whole corruption thing going on at the airport. So the officials, they seize all my crates because they said, why would you import empty crates, right? Mm-hmm. There's got to be a scam connected to it. And the more I explain to them I'm here to rescue animals or chimps, the more they go, no, you know what, we're going to hold on to your crates until we figure out what the scam is, because nobody will pay that amount of money to import an empty box. But the box is important because it's reinforced steel. It's kind of made to withstand the beating from a chimp. And a lot of people don't know, but a chimp is 7 times stronger than a human being. So when they want to break something, they're most likely going to break it. So I had all of these chimps. Eventually, what I had to do was I had to make my own crates at a bulldozer factory. They transport these big dozer engines at Bolo was the company's name, Bolos. And I took some of these diesel engine crates, and I reinforced them with steel, and I made new boxes right on the fly. It's not like this MacGyver kind of scene with a grinder and a welder and whatever else. And I put these boxes together, these crates, make them IATA certified so they can get onto a plane, and get to the airport. Spend time there, get through everything, and I really hoped that these crates were going to be good, they were going to last. But we took a whole pallet, and all the chimps get onto a pallet, and the net goes over it. There's wood on the outside, so you can't really see inside them. But these 2 female chimps, they wanted to be together, and so this pallet goes out. I can hardly breathe, but this pallet goes out onto the tarmac, and I'm stressing because something's going to go wrong. Something always goes wrong. And goes onto the pallet, goes into the rear of the plane. But I'm standing on the steps of the front of the 747, and I'm watching this pallet get jacked up, and it's going to go into the back of the plane. And I'm saying it's going to go, we're going to win, it's going to be a win. And then this chimp breaks a hand right through the crate, and she tries to grab the operator. Now this is like 6 meters above the ground, it's like those jack-up trolleys. And she tries to grab him, and he jumps 6 meters off that thing, and he lands there on the tarmac. And I go, oh no, I'm screwed. I'm going to go to jail. It's game over for me over here. So these chimps are going to get shipped back. I can just imagine the most horrible situations. And I run off the plane, and I go grab that guy, and I dust him off, and I said, "Hey, buddy, you're okay. You're going to be fine." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm thumbs up."
So this chimp this chimp went crazy on you?
No, the chimp didn't break out. Just the hand went through the wood. So it was like this remote hand that's just shaking everywhere.
Oh my God.
It wasn't real danger, but the guy got a fright from him, of the whole situation. That's why he jumped, because you can imagine some Bigfoot breaking out of something and trying to grab you.
I think everybody's thinking the same thing I am right now, that John Ripa is part chimp. I swear. Sorry. Everybody's thinking. I'm seeing the chat lighting up. Is Ripa a chimp? Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, anyway, so the trolley went back in, and we did get the whole pallet to South Africa. But it even gets worse back then, because when I landed there internationally for the Johannesburg Airport, or Oliver Tambo Airport, it's a huge place. It's it's like Dallas almost. It's a huge place. And I drive I get to the cargo department of the airport, and I just see all these people streaming out. It looks like there was a fire alarm that was set off or something. It's just people streaming everywhere. And I said, "Oh no, here's the next one coming for me." And I'm running into that place, and I'm trying to see what the hell's going on. And it's just this hand, this hand is just shaking everywhere, and people got a fright, and it was like a tiger escaping or something, So, cleared the whole place, and then I'm trying to put this hand back into the box, talk chimp and talk nice, and trying to negotiate the hand back into the box and then put it in the van, and all right, we're going to get out of here. So that was, I would say that was one of the craziest things that I got involved with. But there's like a million of these stories.
That's insane.
Awesome.
Couple things here. Don C says, David Rainey thinks Nirvana is the best. He has a Nirvana tattoo, and he made a $5 donation to the show. Thank you, Don C. Jeffro.
Our buddy.
$10 donation to the show. Thank you so much. And he says, Chimp Lives Matter. How you like that?
Yeah, there
you go. Chimp Lives Matter. Okay. Where were we at? Oh, so you've been doing this, for a long time. Obviously, you just said that flying paramotors has only been in the last 8 years. And I understand this isn't the first interview you've done, right? You've done a couple other interviews as well. And who else have you interviewed with?
Okay, so back in the day when I was doing the show on Discovery Channel, I was doing regular tours to the US where I had to be on the talk shows. I've been on the Tonight Show twice with Jay Leno.
There you go.
Yeah, it was great. Some of the guests that were with me on there was 50 Cent, and I was a presidential candidate, McCain, back in the day.
John McCain.
John McCain. Yeah, I used to. That was fun with him.
Wow.
And Rudy Giuliani, he was on the show as well with me. So
Really?
fun with him. Yeah, it was fun.
So I guess
And then
go
I had to
ahead.
go there once or twice. I had to go out there once or twice for the Tonight Show. And then the Ellen DeGeneres show.
All right.
Also great. That was a lot of fun because I had to teach how to speak chimp.
I bet that was funny. I wish we could have gotten a video of that. That'd have been fun.
Yeah. Well, it's on the internet. And then I did the Tonight. Well, what was it called? It was the Martha Stewart show. That was in New York. And then the morning shows. You know, I call it.
Wow,
Eugene. Today Show. The Today Show. That's also in New York. Yeah.
I can't believe this. I didn't even know all these shows you've been on. Wow.
Yeah. You guys got a big country. There's a lot of shows.
yeah, but you're on some pretty big name stuff.
Yeah. So,
it was fun.
The next question has got to be, of all the interviews you've done, of all the shows you've been on, who would you say, I mean, Jay, Ellen, who would you say the most fun, the best interview, who has been the best that you've been on so far?
Well, David, you're pretty good, man. I gotta say, the conversation's flowing. I'm kind of getting a good vibe here. I guess I'll give you a point score afterwards and see how it's going. It might go towards John.
John, David, it's the same thing. We go hand in hand together somehow.
we are.
So, anything can happen.
So I like that. How about a thumbs up for that? I like it. Thank you very much. And by the way, no one else has kept you up at 3 a.m, so that's good too. I got to thank my buddy Tim Rangers Squiggly Wiggins. He just made a whopping $50 donation to our show tonight, and he wants to know, are you going to publish a chimpanzee to English dictionary? Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Tim, I appreciate that, buddy. I love you, man. Thanks so much.
I never thought about that.
That'd be great. All right, now you got into, you see, how did you see or first find out about powered paragliding?
All right, it's a good story. All right. So our main problem is that I was rescuing chimps because they were being poached in the forest. The anti-poaching or the poaching problem is really big in the rainforest, and one of the reason why it can't really get stopped, besides the fact that it's war-torn countries, is because it's the jungle. I mean, where do you find these guys? These hunters walk through the jungle and they find these families and they butcher them and they take the infants, and the infants go to the markets, and that's how it gets sold. So you always be on the back foot unless you solve the problem of trying to get onto the front foot. You try and preempt the problem, try and stop the hunting from happening in the first place. So we had this project in Gabon, which is the northern, I wouldn't say northern region, it's about the Central Africa region on the west side. The project there was we had to spread a rainforest, quite a large rainforest piece, like 2 million hectares or something like that. We had to try and do a good conservation project, try and save gorillas and chimpanzees and stop them from being removed from the wild. And I was looking for aviation platforms, and we actually had a great project. That's where I started working with the military, ex-military guys, and we're going to come up with solutions on how to find these guys, how to get into the forest and how to stop them. So we designed these whole abseiling out of Huey helicopters kind of thing project that we were going with. It was like a full-on intervention to respond to the hunting efforts. But it was a very unsustainable project, because when you do things like this, it's got to be sustainable to be implemented anywhere. And at the price that helicopters are working at in projects for those kinds, it's not sustainable for African countries to do things like that. So even if it was going to be a successful project, in the long term, it wasn't very sustainable. So then I started looking at other solutions, and that's how I used to be a PPL pilot. I did my pilot's license in helicopters, and then I went over to planes, and we started dragging microphones on long lines and trying to listen to the sounds of chimps to try and see if we can hear the noises of chimps when we fly over the rainforest, because you can't see through it. We had the Denel, the manufacturer of infrared cameras. We were flying with infrared cameras to try and see if we can see the heat signature of the chimps when we fly over the forest. So we played with all of these technologies. And then there was this one day, nothing works, nothing was working. There's one day I was working in the forest. I was climbing trees in the forest here in South Africa where we had the sanctuary, and a paramotor guy comes flying right over the canopy.
No kidding.
To this day, I don't know who it was. All right. He had
Wow.
a black canopy, and he flew really close over the canopy of the trees, and he would look right down at me into my eyes, and he waved at me. I thought, oh, that's the solution. If he can see me right under the canopy in the forest, then that's what the rangers got to fly to find the bad guys.
Wow.
And that's when I started doing research, trying to find, how these engines work, what canopies, what kind of gliders will work for the kind of work to be done. And I reached out to quite a few different guys, but like I said, I come from an aviation background, so I try to think about aircraft and try to bring that knowledge to paramotors and see, okay, what paramotor is closest to flying an aircraft. And I ended, or at least my choice ended with Nirvana. So the first company I went to, or at least from my research point of view, was Nirvana. And I reached out to the owner of Nirvana, and it just so turns out he was very passionate about conservation in Africa. And so at that point, I would say about 8 years ago, we started with the first instincts. He sent a couple of motors over here. We started the project of developing these machines. I wouldn't say developing, but to try and bring them in. How would you use them for conservation? So that's where it started. So doing really long range flying over very wild terrain, carrying weapons, carrying support equipment, things like that, landing in the bush and nowhere, and then being able to fly back out. So there was a lot of development back in those days.
That's an awesome story.
One of the big issues that we have, at least where I live, well, even in I hear these stories, is scaring wildlife. Flying so close and stock cattle, things like that, horses. I just heard about this in I think it was Boulder, Colorado, where someone flew over and a lady was riding a horse and got injured, and the horse got injured because this guy flew low. I mean, the animals out there, are they getting scared when you're flying over them, or are you flying high?
No, wild animals, not so much. I actually do for the hell of it, for the fun of it, I do game counts from time to time on reserves, and I'd be crisscrossing the whole game reserve to try and count as many, take pictures of animals. And we actually have a problem trying to move animals about to get them in the open so we can take good pictures. So it's not that easy to chase them around. But I would say that some species do not like paramotors, and I would say horses would be one of them. I think they're a bit more sensitive to the sound. I do believe cattle as well. Cattle can be a little bit sensitive to it, and I've got a couple of cattle farmers that use paramotors to get. It's difficult to get all over the huge pieces of land to find their herds, and then they use paramotors to get there. So, but they've custom their technique in order not to chase animals around. So, I think you got to be sensitive to noise. It's definitely less than helicopters and airplanes. But it also depends on the pilot. Is he going to be a screaming eagle right to the ground? If you're going to fly like an idiot, then you are going to scare animals. That's just the way it is.
Right. So when you see a poacher and you're flying, and it's really, I wish I had the picture, because I think John sent me a picture of you flying your giraffe, right? But yeah, when you see a poacher or you see something, what's your action at that point? What can you do?
Oh, we had loads of fun chasing poachers in the Kruger National Park. That's our largest conservation area. It's like 2 million hectares of game reserve here, and you're not allowed to fly or come close to it with a paramotor. But we had a project inside the national park where we were doing the patrols, fence patrols, and actually finding the rhinos and elephants and just trying to find those herds, protect them. When you do see a poacher, you radio it into what's called mission control. It's a radio communication tower that is in connection with all of the response teams. So that's ground, that's helicopters, that's aircraft.
So they can move in quickly.
Yeah, it's like a QRF, the quick response teams, and then they'll throw resources at whatever that location is. So there's a lot of different kinds of aircraft being used to patrols, a lot of helicopters and things in the park. And then the paramotors, we had this, the area that we were given was actually a very big hotspot for poaching. So we actually built up a very, very good reputation very quickly. The guys say, when we caught poachers, or when they were caught, they would always say to the head rangers, they're not worried about helicopters. You hear them miles away. They're not worried about airplanes because they're coming too fast. But those guys with the paramotors, now you stay away from them. Now we're scared of them. And the picture started circulating because we used to fly fully dressed. That's body armor, assault rifle, survival gear. It's fully loaded, so that if we had to land and respond to whatever the threat was, we'd be able to do it. So it's kind of like leapfrogging, cutting them off from escaping from the park. So we'd be able to land. That's if there's no ground forces that would be able to intercept them.
No.
And we used to have huge amounts of action. It was a lot of fun.
I've got so many questions that are rolling off my tongue right now, and I know eventually we want to get to Nirvana.
Yeah, we're gonna a couple more questions in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's switch.
I'm glad there's no questions in the chat right now because
everybody's so interested in his story. No one's talking. It's crazy.
This is awesome. Okay, so let me just throw a couple questions before I forget them. You can answer them how you want. Have you ever been shot at? How far away do you fly from your base? How many people are flying with you? And how much area is being covered? And how often are you getting out there to do it?
Well, we used to have a project that we did with the government, which was to try and determine whether paramotors was a viable tool, because they were worried about this, if these machines would just fly by night, but they're going to crash all over the place. And so for over a 3-year period, I sponsored the project and we put pilots on rotation. It was called the Raptor project. And so Nirvana owners, experienced pilots, would donate their time. They'd get trained in technique and they'd come stay there at the park, and then they'd donate the time and they'd fly with us as teams. So you'd have anything from 2 to 4 pilots covering different areas. We were given, like I said, a hot zone of 40,000 hectares that we had to patrol. We could fly anywhere. And there's no roads, there's nothing. It's bush. It's proper elephants, rhinos, lions, everything's in there.
So cool.
And it's open to the larger 2 million hectares. So if you land, you can fly in there. I've seen places in that place no human has probably been. I mean, it's that fantastic.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
And so, the distances we used to fly, that's what the nice thing about the Nirvana Instinct was, is that that 14-liter tank, and if you fly it in patrol speed, we'd have different settings. Usually we'd like to do it as 2 pilots would stick together. You have a wingman. I used to be the guy that flies very close to the ground, under the tree canopy levels, with a very fast glider. Used to do it with the Hadron XX as a glider. And then there'll be another pilot very high up, like 3,000-4,000 feet up, and he'd have binoculars, and he would do the grid pattern flying very slow, and I'd be zigzagging through the trees. So the idea was that if he spots something, he'd direct me to it. And the thing about paramotors is you can't hear it coming until it's right on top of you. Especially if you're screaming with a Hadron XX at very, very fast speed. The only problem with that is that if that engine goes out, there's no altitude, so you're going to have to ditch. You close the trims, you convert to altitude, and you have to put out. Having said that, and touch wood, in the 3 years that we did those flights, we did not have a single engine out in Nirvana, which was a full passing the test for paramotors.
Wow.
So the government said we can keep on with that project whenever it gets renewed from time to time. But it's only Nirvana that's allowed to fly there, and only Dudek as well.
Wow.
But the simple reason was because that machine passed the test. Now the argument is that if we're going to do something else, then you got to prove that the other machines are just as good. So
good.
Whether that argument floats or not, it gave us a little bit of a window into that world, and it contributed quite a bit. Not that the other machines aren't as good as Nirvana. It's just that we stuck it out there and we proved that it can work.
Awesome. We had a great question here for you from the chat.
Yeah.
Burgonian Evolution. I hope I pronounced that right. Burgonian Evolution says, how likely will it be that poachers start using paramotors to spot their prey like you are spotting them?
Yeah. Okay. So what happened was that that's why they restricted it only to Nirvana-colored gliders. The government was very quick on it because they said, well, we need to identify the ranges, and the teams need to be able to identify the specific glider color range, so we can know that it's not some guy that's, acting like he's part of the team, and he comes in and he lands, shoots a rhino, takes the horn, and gets back, bails out of Dodge. So the idea was that we needed to have just a certain color range. And the thing is that why it worked well was because I'm the only importer for Nirvana colored gliders in Africa. So I could control and have them registered when they were sold and make sure that at least it's some bit of control. I mean, obviously there's some loopholes there, but your chances are that if there's a picture taken of a Nirvana glider flying and landing or somewhere there, I'd be able to identify it.
Yeah. John, you said to me before the show, you're not going to believe how fast this show is going to go for us, and I can't believe it's 9:40 already.
Let's segue into some questions.
I mean, we could totally have 2 shows with Eugene. This is so. I hope you guys are in the chat are enjoying this. I really do, because this is awesome. I'm when the chat's not moving fast, it's usually because people are engaged. I think that's what's happening. So that's awesome. All right, Johnny, I'm gonna let you segue this part. Go ahead, buddy.
So first off, I'd like to thank Eugene for believing in me. As most of you know, I'm a Nirvana dealer now, and with the help of Eugene, things are moving real fast. I'm really happy to be a part of the team, and I'm looking forward to being a part of Nirvana down the road. And I'm excited to see what's ahead. I believe it's a really good motor. The Simonini is a great motor, and I think it might not be a paramotor for everybody, but it is a high-end paramotor, and like Eugene says, they're very reliable. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Happy to have you in the family.
So Eugene, I've got some questions for you personally. People in the U.S., there's so many questions of what's going on with Dudek paragliders. Now we know Nirvana is a Dudek. They sell Dudek gliders in Nirvana colors. Is there anything you can tell the chat or the group what's going on with Dudek? They can't seem to get any responses. People are just upset.
Yeah, I think that the whole Dudek situation is as big as we could have a whole show just discussing what really happened there. But I'm going to try and break it down in a nutshell.
Small.
Okay, so first off, what happened was, if we would go pre-COVID, like 2 or 3 months, or even a month before COVID hit in 2019, like December 2019, the order period was 3 weeks. That's how quick it was to get a Dudek glider ordered. I think it was 5 weeks for a special color glider to get to your doorstep. So the order process was really quick. But then, when COVID hit, there was, the importers got into a bit of, I would say, a shock frenzy, because I think the initial problem was started by the importers globally, because what they did was they got into a panic and they placed large amounts of orders. Now, each importer placing a large amount of orders, just suddenly, boom, the whole order list just went up on the Dudek side, and nobody was willing to release those orders. So Dudek even tried to address that by saying, guys, if you don't actually have a buyer for a glider, don't have it manufactured. But on the other side, you can also understand that guys wanted stock. That was the one side that actually I would say caused the problem, because you could see going from 3 weeks to 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, it kind of like snowballed, where it was up to 8 weeks. And then COVID itself had the effect of restrictions on staff being able to work in the factory. I think those countries.
So their workforce was way down.
Yeah. So in Czech Republic and Poland, I think it was kind of like a delayed action. In the beginning of COVID, we were still selling gliders, importing, no problem. It was moving. But then I would say, there came a point, even at Nirvana. I remember being on the phone with Nirvana, and they'd tell me there's 3 people at the whole factory doesn't have COVID. It does not have COVID. And everyone is just down. It's out. And I think similarly, I think that happened in Poland as well at the factory, where they got hit with staff shortages and the facility itself. Okay, so
when you say staff shortages, are you talking about material?
No staff shortages. The workforce.
Oh, staff. Okay.
Staff, yeah, all right,
gotcha.
Sorry. Okay, so they sort of had the rotation on staff and when they can work and how they can work. And then I think additional problems that started feeding into that, I would say, was the new models that Dudek brought out, because you had the Dudek actually. They're one of the cleverest companies when it came to developing their product range. They went laser focused. We want something for XC, we want something for acro, we want something for slalom, and we want something over the top, and we want something for instructors that are good for teachers, for instructors to give to beginners. And once the reviews and everything else came out, the word came out in this product range where it was like an evolutionary leap. I used to fly and race with the Hadron XXs and those gliders. Very, very difficult gliders to fly. I mean, and then suddenly just things changed, and this new breed of Dudek gliders came out, and it became so popular that, even if the importers were going to cancel those orders because they might not have all the buyers for it, it snowballed as far as demand went. Demand went through the roof. Now, Dudek is actually trying to solve that by creating a second factory. They are opening up the second factory to keep up with the demand, which is just 10 times what it used to be.
Wow, 10 times.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean,
so now Dudek supplies gliders to every country in the world, not just USA and maybe even South Africa, every country in the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, they're huge. They are huge. It's a huge factory. I think the current problem right now, which has brought us to something like 16 weeks. I kind of think that's what Ozone's problem is as well. If you look at them, price was like 182, 184 days delivery, or
from what I hear, there as well.
The same kind of problem. Mm-hmm. And that comes down to the supply shortage, where the raw materials that needs to be supplied to these factories, it's not there. The suppliers aren't delivering. So certain colors are not getting delivered in time. Gotcha. And they're not keeping up. It's a new range. If they need more of it, they can't get any. And they're just desperately trying to solve these problems. And so it's the COVID is really creating all of this, and there's no real great solution to get out of it unless the whole world gets out of it. But they are trying to find new suppliers, but we're kind of stuck in it. You look at vehicle manufacturers, some of them are suspending vehicle production because they don't have chips.
The chips. Yeah. There's a chip shortage.
We're all connected to the same kind of problem, and but I'm very speaking to the factory on a regular basis. I kind of think that the problem is going to get solved at some point. We will catch up. We will.
So they're working on. So they're working on it. We can tell everyone they're working on it.
Okay. Oh yeah, they are desperately trying to get it done. Yeah.
Excellent news. I think everybody'd be glad to hear that because, like I said, people have just been trying to get these gliders in the U.S. and we just can't get them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I kind of feel their pain as well. I mean, I've had gliders waiting, even for my own racing gliders, that I should be getting preference for racing, and I waited 4 months for my new warp. So it was it is what it is, but we'll get there. The world will improve.
And you're doing
fingers crossed.
You're doing some racing. You did a race yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Here's a picture of it. What are you flying right there?
I fly a Warp 18, like a bat out of hell. So this race that we do here in South Africa is we're actually starting this circuit, and we're going to connect it with the Dudek Wingman thing. And we have more of these races now planned worldwide. Some of them, I think the next one's going to be in Sweden, and there are some coming to Texas and the US. There's going to be a speed.
You say you're connecting this with the Dudek Wingman. What are the Dudek Wingmen?
Okay. So DudekWingman.com is something that you're also part of, John. It's the website that we created, DudekWingman.com, was kind of like an effort for us to reach out to the customer base, because it's not just good enough to be able to read on the internet and trying to figure out what is the best glider for me. So what I did was I invited a whole bunch of really reputable guys in the industry, really good pilots, guys that do reviews on gliders that are very knowledgeable. And I asked them to donate their time to become wingmen on this page. And so you can actually go onto the website, look at the different gliders, go and read the review and see the video on the specific type that you're interested in.
I just put the link in the chat for everybody.
Yeah. And so basically you can actually reach out. I can speak, a customer of yours can speak to you, John, and say, listen, I know that you've flown the Hadron 3. Do you have any advice for me? What's the right size? Do I have the right amount of experience? And I think that's going to come a long way for us to open up communication lines and improve our community, the Dudek community. And I can tell you what, Dudek is over the moon when it comes to this project. It was actually just supposed to be my pet project, but they grabbed it and they vetted it and they made it part of Dudek. So I'm really happy how far that has just snowballed, and it's very popular. I think in the last, since it's been up like 2 weeks, I think we had more like 20 or 30 gliders ordered,
That's awesome.
that we've helped customers as well. Yeah.
Sure.
So question real quick. So
ahead, David.
If I'm interested in Dudek, there's the link that John just posted. But if I'm interested in getting a Dudek wing or Nirvana Paramotor, obviously check the websites. But John Ripa, our very own John Ripa, who also is part of paraglidingtalk.com. John Ripa is your contact person. Is that correct? In our country.
Okay. So John is now the dealer for Florida. So, he's got own spread there. I think, we were very excited to bring John into the thing. The whole thing happened with Graham Speck in Canada, because Graham Speck is the importer for Canada, and he's mates with John. And so this conversation went back and forth, and, I said, well, we really, I know John, and I didn't know that Graham knew him, and it was kind of like this connection. So, well, maybe we should start talking and see where we can go with this, because Florida is really important for Nirvana. It's always been, as from the day that Nirvana North America started. Just to explain how that works, is it's not like in the old days where there's like one importer and they do all of the North American, South American region. Nirvana North America is the custodian for rights for Canada and for America, for Mexico going into the South. But I'm not the actual importer. I don't do the importation of the product. Mm-hmm. I appoint the importers, and I help them develop and grow the brands. Call me the brand custodian, if you want to call it that. Okay. For the English-speaking regions, we want to call it that. And so Austin PPG, that's our importer for the USA, and Empire PPG in New York. Those are the two importers for the USA. And they've got a dealer range. And John falls in under Austin PPG. He works with Brian West and Corey Hunter Reynolds. And, John, what you're going to do with Florida, everybody's looking. It's going to be good. I know it's going to be good.
Let me tell you, we're going to get them motors out there. People are going to be able to feel them, touch them, see them. Yeah. I have high hopes for this brand.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
So another question I have for you. I've flown pretty much every Dudek glider out there, the Warp being one of my favorites. I like the PK system. I also really enjoy the Hadron 3 for, cross-country stuff, just hands-off flying, just sightseeing. Is there any new gliders that you can talk about that might be coming down the pipe?
Yeah, you naughty boy. You're digging for that carrot on the Warp 2 and the Snake 3, right? Okay. So,
what did you just say? What?
All right. So, there's, Dudek is always like one step ahead. They're always trying to figure out with their computer models on how they're going to improve the current situation, as far as performance goes. It really is a performance-based brand, but, this is also hitting them because they got this shortage and trying to get these models into the barn out, but they're also coming out with new guns all the time. And so the Warp 2 is something that's going to come out eventually. It's in prototype stage right now. There's a few of us that are on the list to start flying the Warp 2 pretty soon. And then we got to give our feedback back to the company. I was the first guy to get the Warp. I believe I was the first guy to get the Warp 1. Right off the bat.
Hold on a second. Graham and I got him pretty quickly, too. I got to tell you. We were some of the first two guys to fly.
Let me tell you how far back I go with this. I did the Icarus 2018, and that was July 2018, and I got on the phone with Piotr Dudek. I called him up and I said, "Listen, okay, see, here's the thing you guys don't know about me. I've got OCD. I am an absolute freak when it comes to if there's a problem, I need to solve it, and I can't go to bed unless my brain just by the time I get up in the morning, I figured out how to fix it." And so,
sounds like someone I know. The guy, I don't know which direction he is, but he's somewhere.
He's this way.
He's this way.
And Pavel, the owner of Nirvana, he's kind of like, I'm part of the family that did hold up the phone with the R&D team, and I'm like part in the room while they're fixing problems, and I can be part of it. So I've got used to being the input guy for Nirvana on the development side on the machines. But on the Dudek side, these Polish guys, I wasn't really familiar at that point. But, obviously being the importer. And I got a phone, Peter Dudek, and I said to him, "Listen, I love your products, but this Hadron XX, we got to fix it right now. You got to fix what I just had on the Icarus, because the thing about the Hadron, it was a perfect glider.
I love the Hadron XX.
The Hadron XX, it was perfect.
It was fast. It was fast.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. If you want
I
to
don't
win
think
a race,
anything was faster, but with speed becomes other problems,
Yeah. But the problem was that you had to take off directly into the wind, or you don't take off at all. And so when you're doing something like the Icarus and you're jammed up in some little field in a little town, and the windsock's doing this, and there's no direction, then you just don't get off the ground.
Yeah, it's
tough one. I came up with a couple of solutions, and I called Peter and I said, please change this and this and this. Can you make me a special prototype Hadron XX, because I can't lose races while flying Dudek, but I'm not going to fly anything else. And he said to me, Gene, I'm going to shut you down. This conversation is not going to go any further because I already made the perfect light. It's the warp coming out, and I'll be the first to send it to you, and you can tell me what you think about it.
There you go.
And
so there you go, Graham and John.
My Dudek warp was so fresh off the bat. It didn't even have little pouches for the
You got it. You got it. All right. Let's wait. Go ahead, David.
I gotta say, we've got about. Looking back at 15 minutes. I've got people asking questions in the chat.
Let me finish, though. All right,
we're gonna ask these questions. We got some donations we want to recognize. Thank you, everybody.
Eugene, we have a Warp 2 coming out, and I heard you burp out Snake 3. Did I hear a Snake 3?
Yeah. All right. So on the Snake 3, this is really the fastest glider out there. They are, you're seeing speeds like 115 kilometers an hour. It's crazy fast glider, very small aspect ratio, but they are going to keep it close to the chest for a while because they're having the race pilots alone fly them right now.
Gotcha.
So you're seeing the Snake 3 own pretty much the pylon racing, slalom racing scene right now, and it's just right off the bat. And they're just trying to make enough of these gliders to go to the race pilots. They can't keep up with. Even I've got I think it's like 10 or 15 of these Snake 3 orders already, pre-orders with them, and they're not going to release those yet. On the Warp 2, there's a better chance we're going to get the Warp 2s out before you see the Snake 3.
Okay. Good stuff. All right, David, go ahead. I'll give them to you.
All right. I'm going back here. We're going to ask
back.
Well, and some of these already may have been answered, so I'm going to just try to. I want to recognize everybody that's asked a question. So, and I think there may have been someone that asked 2 questions here. So, Crazy Uncle Bob says, does Nirvana make a fold-up paramotor like the McFly?
Yeah. The answer is yes. It's the Carbon Cruise, and it's made for both the Rodeo and the Instinct. Not for the F-Light, the Rodeo and the Instinct, and the Ranger.
All right. And I'm just going to kind of whip through these questions pretty quick.
If we can. I'm going to keep them short as well.
Yeah. Question. I would suspect and this is going back to what we were talking about before. I would suspect poachers could make use of drones to spot their prey. Have you seen any? Have you seen any drones while you're flying out there?
I used to operate next to military drones, and the military drone guys used to ask us to get airborne because it's very difficult to tell the heat signature difference when you're flying the cheaper drones. When I say cheap, we're talking about $200,000 machines. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the drones that these companies use and people use, they're not the same as the drones the US uses in their military. It's not the same specification. So paramotors were really successful, but we didn't really have or interacted with anybody as far as poachers go that use a drone. They're not on that level. They more like operate like terrorists. They're on the ground. They sleep within ant holes. They dig holes into the ground. They stay in the park underground. They've got their weapon caches, everything into the ground.
Okay. I got to say thank you to a guy who fed me yesterday a ton of food. He and his wife. And that's Tim Garvey. And he says, Hedron 3, Nucleon 4, what's the better all-around glider for someone who has decent experience? He's got a lot of it. You got more than just decent, my friend. Decent experience, but does mostly cross-country and likes to play around a bit.
I already answered that, Eugene. I told him the H3 would fit his bill.
There we go.
But go ahead. Go ahead, Eugene.
No, that you got it right on. That's what made Dudek very laser focused. A really great strategy is what they said. What do we have for cross country? It was the H3. It's nice to throw around, but it's not as light to throw around as the Nucleon. But H3 is cross country all the way. It came second in the race yesterday. The only 2 gliders that finished on time, or at least 1-2 on the race, was the Warp obviously number 1, and the H3 finished second.
There you go. All right, next one here. My boy up in Canada A, former guest of the show, Jerry Delier, says Eugene has done such amazing work. Great work, man. So thank you, bud.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Wait, Eugene. Jerry D'Elia flies a bosun on his trike, on his Fresh Breeze trike. He loves that bosun. He said it's so fast.
You know what? We need to get these guys to post some info for us online. They
he puts a video out all the time about his glider. I mean, him flying his glider. So yeah,
there you go.
His channel is called Jerry D'Elia.
Yeah, but the boson is such a new product. You know, I've got a boson on order to do foot launch on the boson. I can't get a single guy that's done the boson foot launch. So anybody's got a boson that can do foot launch on it.
If you get me one, I'll foot launch it.
It comes back to having one. You know, if we have a bad boson,
we have a guy that has one, a friend of ours.
Dave Ruff
has one.
Dave Ruff. He's in town here with me for the next couple of weeks, so we'll talk to him about that and see if I can get some video of him foot launching it on his. I think he has a nitro with him.
David, a couple quick donations. Gyro Jeff.
Whoa! I'm getting to it. I've got an order here.
Long live our Paramotor Nation.
I got it. Craig Taylor, thanks for switching to thumbs up. I'm moving along faster here. Parker Smith made a $10 donation a little while back. See, I got to go back a little bit. This was like 941 he did this, Johnny. He says, don't let Don Cloud fool you. He has a Nirvana tattoo too and spoons with Dave Rainey. They love and breathe Nirvana at Rocket City Paramotors, Huntsville, Alabama. See you all at EFD. You got to look out for them there, Johnny. So thank you, Parker Smith. Appreciate that. Crazy Uncle Bob. Oh, this is a follow-up question. He says, do they have a wing comparable to the Mojo XL? By the way, thank you again, Parker. They appreciate that. Does Dudek have a wing that's comparable to the Mojo XL? Can we answer that?
I don't know the Mojo that well. What category is it?
John?
It's an A glider.
An A glider. So like
the Ozone Mojo guys. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So then the Dudek would have something comparable, but that'll be the Nemo. Yeah, something like that.
There you go. All right, next one. Borgonian Evolution. Again, who made a donation earlier. What about using tandem paragliders and have the passenger film or even fly PFV aircraft together better? Intel, identify poachers or even animals having problems with health or injuries. Another great question. John, I think I might have your replacement. Did you catch all that?
So,
yeah.
Okay, so the tandem, we did use tandem trike, but the thing about it is there's no real landing zones there for wheels out there in the bush. So what happened was we kind of trained very good candidates. We used candidates that can survive out there in the bush. It's kind of like a soldier scenario. If you're very fit, you could land anywhere. You can land in a tree. You can land in any open spot that you could find, but then you're responsible for yourself. So you got good visibility, but your safety is kind of guaranteed with foot launch because you don't have any wheels or undercarriage that can break if you're landing in between rocks and things like that. So we did use trikes. We had the Nirvana 360, which is not even available on the market anymore, but we used to have a tandem trike out there doing it. But the most success I think we found on foot launch, it was just those guys were really, really incredibly potent when it came to using a foot launch machine.
Awesome. Next, we have back to my buddy Tim Squiggy, not Squiggly, Squiggy Wiggins. I got help from that in the chat. I'd like to hear about how many this is just in general. I don't think we really need answers, but I'd like to hear how many paramotor pilots came from radio controlled or RC. I'm AMA lifetime member 137, so been into flying for a long time, but RC been thinking of pilot's license. It's this way to go in. If you make a donation and a $50 donation, you can say whatever you want on this show to go into the United States. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. Appreciate it, buddy. And I think a lot of people are answering that in the chat as reading on. Gyro Jeffro. $20 donation says, long live our Paramotor Nation. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that so much.
And your buddy, Josh Bowden.
I'm getting to him. I see it next. Josh Bowden, Nebraska Paramotor, $50 donation. Thank you so much, Josh. I really appreciate that, buddy. We missed you this week, man. I wish you could have been there.
I'm going to see Josh in 2 weeks.
That's right. He's going to
Where am I going to see him, David?
Oh my gosh, you're going to see him at the Endless Foot Drag. We were just talking about that. So
what is up
John
with that?
John says, "Do I need to be concerned about seeing Josh Bowden?" I said, "If you need to be concerned about seeing the next morning, if you're seeing Josh Bowden, buddy, Josh has got the party, man. He's the man. He's awesome." Jerry Delier, any racing yet on the Bosun?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
David, wait a second.
Yes.
How much did he donate? Any money? That guy?
No, it's just a Jerry.
Yeah.
Just made a question.
No. That's he
I'm
donated
getting to
$20.
that. Can I please go in my order? You're gonna mess me up.
I want to tell you what $20 Canadian is in US. That's all.
I'm getting to his. All right, I'll skip ahead to his. All right, so there you go, John. Dudek gliders for the win, and thank you, Eugene. $20 donation in Canadian dollars. What's that? What is that?
$15.95.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jerry. I love you, buddy. Jim Furman was wondering if anybody has any update on Michael Holiday. I do not. I know Michael was in the hospital with COVID. But I did see a message from him. The show is going to go on with or without him at EFD. Moving on. Robert Amuse says, when did Dudek switch from the Cobra buckles? It is BC supply. Is it BC, I guess, British Columbia? Supply shortage? I don't know if that's correct or not. And if so, will they be going back to them?
I can't give you any info on that. I think that is very specific to inside their design studio.
Okay. Have I caught up?
I think you've caught up, but I don't want to say anything. You'll yell at me.
All right. I caught up. All right, there we go. We did it. Thank you, everybody, for the donations. I so appreciate those donations, and hopefully we're putting up a decent show for you. I hope so. When we get guests like this,
so many more questions we could ask him, but we're at the top of the hour here, so it's 4:00 in the morning for Eugene. So let's do a short after show, maybe.
Eugene, you want to stick around for a few minutes for an after show?
If anyone's got any questions,
I can.
You can for a little bit.
You got me up. So I'm here already.
And you said you're just gonna go fly after this anyway. So, all right.
I reckon so.
Wow, what a great show! I did want to say, first of all, Jade Lear, who won. I don't know what she won yet. I didn't see anything, but I'll reach out to you on Facebook Messenger.
I sent it to you in the chat, buddy.
Oh, did you? Okay. So
she wants the shirt.
I'm gonna show the picture. There's my little girl. She's wearing a Girls Just Want to Fly shirt. You can check out Jade's show Wednesday nights. I think it's 8:00. Oh my God, Tim, stop. Tim just made another donation for $100 this time. I guess I'm gonna have to take him out to dinner again.
Squiggly Wiggins.
I had him over a couple weeks ago. Him and his lovely bride. We're trying to make her more comfortable with us getting Tim up in the air. Hopefully we'll be able to do a tandem at some point here soon. But Tim says, are you going to train me if I do this, or am I really going to have to take 10 days off and work and work helping sick COVID patients since I'm a nurse? Yeah, you're not a nurse. I know what you do for a living, but we'll talk about that off here. Thank you, Tim. I love you, man. Jade, she has her show tomorrow night. It's Clear Prop TV. And then Never Trust Your Skinny Chef Shane's, the nice hangouts, fun times. Next week, we have John Isley. He's going to be back. He was supposed to be last week. We're going to have him. And good news, internet's working. Let's hope it is then, too. Following week, we've got Greg Anthony Harris. He's coming back on. I think this is his third time on the show. And if you haven't seen Greg, I think I'm shocked. I really am shocked. Greg put out a video on Friday. It was brilliant. He spent the last 2 months over with Parajet in England, and he made a video where he's sending drones into lines, into the glider material, and into the prop. You're going to have to watch the video if you haven't seen it yet, but it's an amazing video. It only has 1,200 views. It should have about 12,000 views right now. But Greg's going to come on, watch that video, because you're going to have questions about how he filmed that, the results, all that stuff. That should be a great show as well. Eugene, thank you so very much for being on the show tonight. John, any last words?
There's so many more things I could ask Eugene. Maybe down the road we'll have him on again. And it was a great show. I mean, it was captivating. Yep. I was interested into everything he had to say.
Oh, yeah. And
it was fun, guys. It was fun.
Thank you, buddy. And I'm just going to end the show with this. Most importantly, Jay, Ellen, suck it. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. David,
I'm going to put the
thanks,
code
Eugene.
up. There you go. Here's the code.
Cheers, guys. I'll be in the after show.
We'll see you guys in the after show. Here we go.